Hello,
Good morning. I'm Jen,
I'm Kimberly, and this is
and
That Vegan Morning
that
Show.
Vegan Morning Show.
How
It's
are you
fun
today?
sitting together.
It is. We keep trying.
We do. I'm I'm good. How are you?
I am also good. Yeah, it's Monday, but like we've made Mondays better. So,
And,
yeah,
and I've never enjoyed Mondays as much as I enjoy them with you. And
same.
right now I'm sick. Like I had post wedding stuff for my stepson over the weekend, and it was a lot of fun. But yesterday I came down with some kind of virus. Maybe it's the
Oh,
flu, maybe not. I don't know. But
yikes.
anyway, but normally would I be excited showing up on a Monday morning with some kind of virus at this hour? No. But with you, Kimberly, absolutely.
Aw, I feel the same. I mean, I'm
Aw,
feeling well, but if I weren't feeling well, I'd still want to be here with you.
aw.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for
Good
being
morning,
here.
Richard. Thank you for joining us and being a committed viewer.
Yeah,
We
we really
appreciate it.
appreciate that. Yeah.
How was your weekend, Kimberly?
My weekend was good. Um, I'm drawing a blank on if I did anything. What did I? Oh, I did. Hello. um, I went. Aw, thanks. I went to a pride event on Saturday, and it was
Oh,
so
fun.
fun. Yeah, JP's cousin Patrick works for an organization who that that put on this huge pride event. It was so cool. Um, and like his brother's wife is one of the like directors of this organization. So we knew some people, which felt kind of
Mhm.
neat to show up and be like, I know the people. But it was wonderful, and
Oh,
so many
fun.
people were dressed in so many fun, exciting outfits, and there was drag story time, and there was a drag show, and people just like walking around with the flags that represent who they are, and it was just a really beautiful thing to be around people who were just embracing themselves and each other and all of us, and it was so nice, and it was just a couple of hours, but we had such a good time. That was
That's
the
so
highlight of my weekend.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a great highlight. I got to catch part of the Pride Parade where I was on Saturday, and it looked like a lot of fun, and people were just, there was this like freedom of just being yourself,
Mhm.
and if only the rest of the world could be that way. Just,
Right.
right? Like just be who you are, you be you, I'm going to be me, and everyone just does their thing and not attack other people for doing their thing.
Mhm. Right.
But I
What a
digress.
world. Yeah. What a world.
Exactly. I feel like we can learn a lot from the pride parades.
Yeah, and, it's if for people who don't know, the pride people always well, not all people, but I've seen many people, especially online, because people just say whatever they want now with
Mhm.
not worrying about who they're offending or upsetting, where, there are certain groups of people who will be like, "Oh, where's my straight pride month? Like, why is there a pride month like this?" And it's well, for one, it's because people still say stuff like that. But like pride was started as a protest. It
Mhm.
wasn't just this really fun parade where everybody had a good time. It was standing up for rights and being like, acknowledge me and who I am and what I'm bringing to the world. And and it's just like, we still need pride because there are groups of people who continue to be marginalized, groups of people who continue to think that it's okay to say things like, "Where's my straight pride month?" It's just such nonsense, but it has become like this really beautiful, fun thing, and I was really glad to be able to be part of one of them.
Yeah, that's so great, Kimberly. And you bring up a great point with all of that. And I feel like it's a great segue too. We always find ways where we'll talk
We
about our
really
weekend,
do.
and then it ties in nicely with our
Yeah.
topic. So do you want to kick off our topic, Kimberly, since you're
I
the one
would
who
love
found the
to.
article and
Lucky
created the
me.
inspiration? And it
Yeah.
also ties in nicely with our conversation we had with Angela last week, which if you haven't
Mhm.
seen, the replay is up. It was amazing. And after watching this, if you're watching the replay or watching it live, you should go catch that episode too.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little inside to like how Jen and I do this is that sometimes Jen and I meet and we just have a bunch of ideas that come to us and we'll look at our calendar and our show rundown and we'll make notes of what we'll talk about. And then other times we're not really sure, so the two of us will kind of go off into the world and we look for things to talk about. And so I was doing that last week, trying to come up with some ideas, and I just typed in like vegan news, just general, wanted to see what would come up. And one of the things that came up was an article from a website called Veg Out. And I thought, oh, cool. I've never heard of this vegan website. Let me check this out. But I read the article first. And after I read the article, I thought, this can't possibly be a pro vegan website. What is this? Turns out it is, though. I looked at it, and their mission is about, meeting people where they are, helping them to embrace plant-based eating, a vegan lifestyle. But reading this article, which is titled, "If you're vegan but never try to convert others, you probably exhibit these high EQ qualities." And
Uh,
right? And oh, I had so many feelings at first because when I read through the article, and we're going to go like piece by piece through this article, I read through it and I thought the way that they talk about it is like they talk only about food, bringing food, do this with food. And I'm like, we're talking about it because it's not just a belief we don't agree on. There are billions of lives at stake. Animals are slaughtered every day. So it's not just you like this, I like that, and we have to agree or disagree. We're talking about saving lives and not torturing animals and making them endure the suffering and that they do for their entire short lives until they're slaughtered and then, put on someone's plate. So, do you have any initial thoughts, Jen, before we go into like each section? Section.
yeah. Listen, lots of big words at this hour in the morning. So totally get it. Yeah. So the title, I was like, is this just clickbaity? Is this like something just to like, and there was the food part, like it was all about the diet. And I also got like this sense like they were kind of making it out like if you speak up about things that are important to you, then you don't have emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And the thing is this, you can talk about things that are important to you and do it in a way that uses emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this article would have been better if they shared how to have tactful communication with these things instead of shaming people who just want to share what's important to them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It definitely came off as if there wasn't a way to be emotionally intelligent and then also share your thoughts. So the first point that they make is you respect autonomy even if you disagree. And this was kind of what I was touching on just before about this idea that it's just like, hey, you do your thing and I'll do mine. As it says, okay, let me see. So there were definitely parts of it that I wanted to read.
Yeah, sure.
So instead of lecturing, you let your lifestyle speak for itself. That tempeh curry you brought to potluck, it didn't come with a sermon. It just tasted good. Yeah. Okay.
So I've talked to different vegans over the course of my 8+ years of being vegan. And there are people who've shared how like, yeah, I'll bring a vegan dish and I don't even tell people it's vegan. And then if they come to me and they're like, oh, this is so good, and then they find out it's vegan and they're like, oh, it's vegan. Whenever I bring a dish to, whether it's a family function or friends, whatever gathering it is, I share that it's vegan. And it gives people are usually curious and they'll try it. And
Uh-oh. We have lost Jen. I'm sure she'll come back, though. I hope she notices that she's been disconnected. So it talks about not lecturing, but we again can have conversations about veganism. And it even says here, you respect people's right to make their own choices, even if they don't align with yours. And that's emotional maturity 101. Except, like I was saying, there's lives at risk. It isn't like, hello, welcome back.
hi, sorry, I don't know. Allison, I get this message.
Uh-oh. It looks like Jen's having some technical difficulties. But this idea that we can respect each other's choices and like just go on with our day. Like, I've had non-vegans say to me, I respect your choice to be vegan. You should respect my choice not to. And sorry, but it's kind of like, let's take child abuse, for example. If someone said to you, I respect your choice not to abuse children, but I still want to abuse children. Like, nobody would ever be like, oh, that's great. I totally accept and respect your choice. No, there are animals' lives at risk and we are causing them to suffer. And so by just being like, hey, your idea is okay and my idea is okay, and we're just gonna, hang out together and not talk about it. I feel like it's okay to have a good conversation, and you can show up in a way, and Jen and I do it on our own platforms. We do it here where we say, look, here's the truth about why we're vegan. We're not vegan just because we like love animals. We're vegan because we understand and we've learned and we've witnessed, whether through videos or stories or in-person interactions, like we understand what is happening, and that's why we choose to be vegan. So welcome back.
Thank you for taking over. I kept getting some weird glitch message on my StreamYard, which is the platform we used to do this, and it kept kicking me off.
Oh.
So here I am. Thank you for covering Kimberly so effortlessly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, oh, sorry, I'm getting like a tickle in my throat. Yeah, exactly. Like you can find ways to share these things. And this whole past couple of weeks around my stepson's wedding, people were asking me, because I was eating the vegan option, and they were wondering, why I was eating that. And then they were asking me why I was vegan. And so I was honest, like I didn't do it in a way that was like, demeaning to other people. I was just sharing my journey and why it was important for me to be vegan.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's, and it's okay. And it's interesting. We talked about this last week with our interview with Angela, but you and I had very different communication styles back in our early adulthood.
Yeah.
And I feel like that ties in nicely with what we're talking about. So Kimberly, do you want to share a little bit about your journey about community? Because I feel like it ties in perfectly with this.
It really does. Yeah. And definitely go back and hear me tell Angela about it in our episode last week. But yeah, I definitely came into it, from understanding the level of abuse that was happening to animals and how much they suffered. And so when I learned about it and, looking back, I just went vegetarian. I wish I'd gone vegan. But I was so moved by what I had learned and so hurt by what I had learned that I was like, everybody needs to know this. And I was really like wanting to tell everybody whether they wanted to hear it or not. And that actually leads to point number 2 in the article too, is that you know when to listen and when not to engage. And I think that once you've been vegan, even for a little while, you pick up on that really quickly. And you do learn when to, like, who's really receptive and who isn't. But when I first went vegetarian, I was so much like, you've got to hear about this. And I remember someone who I'd been quite close to at that time, and we are not at all anymore. But she said to me, "Hey, you know what? Let me know when you're normal again. Like, I don't want to be involved with you if this is what you're doing." And it was fine because it turns out she's a terrible person. But so it all worked out. But eventually she did come back into my life for quite some time, and then, in the last like 10 years or so, not so much. But yeah, my approach back then, because I just was so emotional about what I had learned, that I didn't care if they were receptive or not. I just wanted to shout it from the rooftops. What was your approach?
Well, yeah, so my approach, so for me, like I've talked about this very openly on my platform, The Confident Vegan, and also I've talked about it before on our morning show, but I'm a recovering people pleaser. I used to be afraid to speak up at all about anything. And that had very terrible consequences in my life, that I had to finally reach that point of, oh my God, I'd rather be uncomfortable speaking up than be uncomfortable tolerating things that just are not good for me. And so after being in that place for about 10 years in my life, I actually about like a good five, actually a little bit less, like 5 to 8 years, just being in that place with myself. I realized there was another level of building that way of not being a people pleaser. And that was when I wanted to become vegan. And it took me 2 years to be vegan because I was afraid of how other people would judge me. My family wouldn't want to be vegan. What would my husband say? How's he going to, and back then our kids were younger. And I realized that anyone who genuinely loves and cares about me is going to respect what's important to me. And then in return, I'm not going to impose it on them. And when I first transitioned to being vegan, I still cooked non-vegan food for my family. And then after we became empty nesters, I then had another conversation with my husband where I was like, you know what? I just can't cook it anymore. And you know what? Everything's been fine. All right. And it was finding that way of, again, tactfully communicating what was important to me. And so it's interesting how you and I are both like in the same place, but we took different journeys. You were like one extreme of the spectrum, and I was the other extreme of the spectrum. And I think that's great, because when you and I could come together and talk about these things, we meet in the same place now, but we can dip back to when we were a different version of ourselves and share what that journey is like, because there are people who fall in those two different camps of communication, and we can help others see that you can have a balanced approach to communicating the things that are important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. The next point, and I think that what we've kind of just talked about, I like how it all seems to kind of flow together. You separate you separate identity from ego. Let's be honest, in the age of social media, it's easy to let lifestyle choices become identity markers. Vegan can become a badge, a bio, and a brand. But high EQ folks don't need to broadcast their diet to feel validated. So, point number 1, diet. Okay. We all know veganism is not a diet. It's a social justice movement. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment to making the world a better, kinder, more compassionate place. So yeah, it involves what we eat. There is a diet component, but it's not just that.
Right.
And then yeah, being vegan for me, I do love using that word. I do love describing myself as vegan because it demonstrates in one word so much of my heart, so much of my commitment to the world, and that I think is really important. I use that word, people know exactly where I'm coming from, what I'm looking for, what I'm expecting, and what I'd like to see in the world. So when then someone comes and says, "Well, that's your ego talking," I would like to then say, from my perspective, there isn't ego. If we are truly showing up as vegans, we are motivated by something bigger than ourselves. And when we're motivated by something bigger than ourselves, it's not about us. Veganism is about ending the suffering and the exploitation of animals. So, where is my ego when it's not about me?
Right.
What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with what you were saying. And again, it's all ties into what we were saying before. It's all in how you say it, right? And again, veganism is not a diet. Um, Whole food plant-based eating, that's more of a diet. When you're
Mhm.
vegan, you can be whole food plant-based. Although you have to be careful, by the way, because if you see something that's plant-based, it can include honey.
Yeah.
So even if something says plant-based, I find that I have to read the ingredients. Or if I go to when I was in Hawaii, a plant-based donut shop, and there was a plant-based banana ice cream place, and it was all vegan except certain products had honey in them.
Mm.
So that's where vegans take it a step further, is we don't want to support that. And I feel like by us just being honest, and again, it's all in how you communicate it, right? You don't have to degrade people for not being vegan.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not a diet. And I feel like when we're open and honest, we get to plant seeds and show people, hey, what is possible as a vegan, and to see and also create more awareness about choices, right? I never used to think about my food, my clothing, the medicines, the product, all those things. I never used to think about it.
Mhm.
And now I think about it. And I feel like that creates that intentionality. And when I talk to people about veganism, I say it's because I want to honor the lives of animals. And that's what it is. Like for me, it's, you know, just by me being vegan, is that going to stop the slaughtering and things that happen? Maybe not. But I'm doing this choice for myself by honoring animals. And then in the past couple years, incorporated that into what I do on social media to share that message, to help plant those seeds and help create that awareness. And again, it's finding that balance as a vegan where, we have an opportunity as vegans to show other people what's possible and create education about things that are happening in this world. And, tying back to our conversation with Angela last week, there's other positive social and emotional um, shifts that can happen when you make those changes.
Yeah. It is really like a whole life encompassing choice that we make. And it can feel overwhelming, but it's also like I found it made things easier for me to understand the guidelines of veganism
Mhm.
to make choices, like before you go vegan, you like you were saying, you just do. You eat whatever, you buy whatever, you don't think about the consequences of what you're doing. And now you are thinking about them. And now there's also kind of like, well, here's what ingredients you want to avoid, and here are the types of foods that you want to eat, and the types of clothing that fit within this. And so it becomes kind of like you can make it a structure to
Yeah.
follow. And it makes that, I don't know, I feel like it's actually less overwhelming when you really look at what veganism actually is. And again, when it's something bigger than yourself, it makes it so much easier to make that commitment and then stay committed to it. And
A
I
hundred
think
percent.
like what we're saying is so beautiful and not judgmental and not angry and not in your face and totally opposite of what this article is suggesting. I think you and I come to this from an emotionally intelligent perspective, and we're not doing these things or only the things that this article points out. Yeah, we feed people vegan food and, wait to find out how amazing they think it is. Sure. But we're still talking about it, and I think we're doing it in a way that really does make people think about their own choices, and it's not making them feel badly, it's making them realize that they have a choice.
100%. And I have found more, I mean, a lot of non-vegans are not in my face, but sometimes I do come across people who are like, "Well, don't you miss it?" And they'll get a little belligerent. And
Mhm.
I have had more experiences with non-vegans needing some EQ.
Yeah.
I mean,
Same.
and then I handle those experiences very tactfully also. But it took time, right? And those are the things that I was afraid of in the beginning as a
Mhm.
vegan, like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? But the pain that I was feeling in my heart for not being vegan finally was just too much for me to ignore. And I found a way, just like I found a way to build the skills of not being a people pleaser in other areas of my life. I found a way to not be a people pleaser when it came to being a vegan.
Yeah. That's really beautiful, and I think really inspiring. You know, we don't have to be perfect in that we're always learning, and we live in a non-vegan world, which means that we're going to encounter things where we're going to be like, oh my god, I didn't realize that animal products were in this, or that I didn't realize the exploitation that was happening within this thing that I buy. But because we're so conscious of this stuff, as we learn these things, then it's like, okay, well, that's not something I buy anymore. I'm going to buy something different. And it just makes being able to make those shifts easier. But
Mhm.
but yeah, like to just come at it and know, like, you have that pain in your heart, like you said, and you need to make a different choice. So just start making a different choice. You don't have to do it 100% today. If you need time to work things out and figure out how to navigate your family, and, just start making those conscious choices and having those conversations. The people that love you, as Jen has said, they will they'll support you. They'll figure it out because you love someone, and it doesn't matter, like, they're making a choice that's better for them. You support it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we could go on and on about that. We're almost out of time, and I wanna make sure
Oh,
we get to the other
no.
points. This is
Yeah.
such a good conversation. We can go a little bit extra because I'm just really,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff that we talked about kinda ties in to the, because the number was, first of all, was there anything else you wanted to say on the last point before we jump to
No.
the next one?
No.
So number 4 is you lead by example, not pressure. And that just is what we've been talking about, right? Just
Yeah.
leading by example, being yourself, communicating all of that, and not, being a jerk about it to other people. Treating people the way you want to be treated, and
Yeah.
sharing ideas, sharing what's possible, and then also just, allowing people the space to be who they are. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think showing the joyful aspects of being vegan.
Right.
We are bombarded with all of the awfulness that has brought us here. And we know, like I've said before about this, the suffering, the slaughtering of animals is all very heavy and very hard. But there's this other side of veganism that is so full of joy and happiness and fulfillment when we are eating foods and living in alignment with who we are. We are compassionate, kind people. And when we start to make choices that reflect that, that fills us in a different way. And then when we share food that doesn't involve suffering with people we love, that brings joy. And when we can visit farm sanctuaries and see the animals living in their full cowness and chickenness and pigness, and you get to see that, there are so many aspects of joy that we can find every single day being vegan. And it's important that when people ask us, why are you vegan, that we tell them what brought us there. But we also should really look at, like, leading by example by being joyful and showing people what's possible.
100%. I agree with all of that for sure. And yeah, it's and again, and it's so interesting how last week's episode ties in with this. It's,
Yeah.
because sometimes we don't realize we're living out of alignment. Like for me, veganism brought me more in alignment with myself in ways that I didn't even realize I was out of alignment until I started living that way. And
Yeah.
it's and showing people the positive aspects. People, I think of restrictions, like, there's many times like, well, don't you miss it? And no, because you know what, especially now, there's so many ways that you can have the similar types of textures and flavors. And that's why there's your, various processed vegan products out there. Not because veganism is unhealthy, because listen, people who are not vegan don't eat healthy either.
Right.
It's just allowing you to have, when you want those options of enjoying something, a comfort food, you can have it. You can have a treat. You can enjoy yourself and not feel restricted. And so that's why you do have those other substitutes out there.
Yeah.
You want to jump down to the fifth one?
Sure. You have compassion for humans, not just animals. So it talks about how you can get caught up in this idea that you're only looking at the animals because that's, being vegan, that's the focus. And then it says, for these vegans who are quiet and have emotional intelligence, that you don't shame someone for ordering chicken nuggets to feed their kids after a double shift. You meet people where they are, not where you wish they were. Your empathy doesn't stop at the farm. It reaches into the real messy lives of other humans. So I actually think that I do that. And I am a vocal vegan who wants everyone to know what it's like and how amazing it is to be vegan. So no, of course, if someone is telling me about the hardships in their life and that's why they can't go vegan, I mean, I'm not going to say, "Oh, of course that's okay." No, you don't need to go vegan. Don't make that change. I'm not going to say that, but I'm also not going to be like, "Well, I don't care. That's too bad. You think fast food is good for you and your kids?" Like, we're not having that conversation either.
Right.
I would listen, and maybe there's nothing else to say after that. And that goes back to the other point we talked about knowing your audience, knowing when it makes sense to share more information. Maybe this is one of those times where we end the conversation and years from then the person thinks about, "Oh, I remember that conversation with that vegan," and they kind of just let it go. I'm going to do some more research about that because they didn't give me a hard time, but now I feel like I'm ready to explore it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to fight with people. If someone wants to argue with me that, being vegan is stupid, like, I'm walking away. But I'm also not going to shame somebody because they're not vegan, but I'm still going to show up and tell everybody why I am.
Same. I agree with everything you said. I have a lot, my family's not vegan, my extended family's not vegan, so I'm always in settings where I'm the only vegan. And and I don't shame people for their choices. I just do my thing, they do their thing. If people are curious, I'm happy to answer their questions. If I get something that's not coming from a place of curiosity and just, trying to instigate something, I shift gears, and I'll just politely say, look, this is what I'm choosing for myself. I'm not judging you for what you're choosing to do for yourself. You do you, I'm going to do me. And that's kind of like how I shut it down, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. This article could have had so much more potential in talking about having emotionally intelligent conversations. But hey, that's why we're here now, right?
Exactly.
We're fixing this article.
Yeah. And when I first read that point, you have compassion for humans, not just animals, I thought it was not going to be about the mom getting chicken nuggets for her kids. I thought it was going to be about recognizing other social justice movements, because I've heard from some vegans who are like, you need to just be focused on the animals and other people will handle the other movements that need to happen. And I disagree with that, because I believe that intersectionality matters. And people have also said, well, this organization and that organization, they're not coming to us and going vegan and supporting us. Why are you also speaking out about these other things that are happening? And it's because all of the suffering is intertwined. We treat each other the way we do because we treat animals the way we do, because we see as a species, as various cultures, we see animals as less than. And then what do we do with people who are not quite like us? We see them as less than, and we treat them differently and poorly, and people suffer. And we're creating this world that is very segmented and sees us and them and the animals, and it becomes this thing. But if we can see that the suffering and the things that we do to animals lead us to treat humans the way that we do, and it's incredible what humans are capable of doing to each other and other than human animals, we can start to fix, I think, what's going on in the world and the way that we approach things. So I was disappointed when I saw that title, and I should have already known that it wasn't going to be good because the rest of the article had disappointed me so much.
Yeah.
But there needs to be more conversation, I think, about the intersectionality with veganism and other social justice movements, and they had an opportunity to do that there and they didn't.
Correct. And I think too, there's ways to talk about all of these things. They can all connect. And we as a world need to get better as communicators.
Yeah.
And because I think there's so many issues right now, and we're not the platform to unpack those things, but there's not enough hours in a day, I think, to address all those things. But it all, this is like the foundation of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are thinking and being compassionate and empathetic about animals, you're gonna be more empathetic towards humans, I would hope.
Yeah. You would hope. So what about the next point? You embrace nuance in a black and white world. So go ahead.
I feel like that ties in. Well, again, I feel like that ties in. I feel like the article is getting repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's, they're just, because it's kind of just tying in with what we just were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And we've already covered all of these different things. It started to feel like they were just taking other phrases from what they were already talking about. Someone was really desperate for an article.
Yeah. There was like, okay, here are my thoughts. Oh, but I have to hit this certain number of words. Let me add on. Yeah.
Right. So do you mind if I skip to the next one then?
Not at all.
You practice self-awareness without guilt tripping others. Again, we just talked about all of that.
Yeah.
Was there
Yep.
anything else you wanted to add to that?
No.
And
And
then,
how about go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Yeah. You find joy in your choices, not superiority. So again, something that we've already talked about is yeah, there isn't so there is a joke, right? They're like, "Oh, vegans think they're better than non-vegans." Like, yeah, because we're not contributing to all this, suffering and stuff, but also no, because again, like I said earlier, being vegan is not about us. Veganism as the
Right.
movement that it is about the animals, and we've lost Jen again. Um and so what we're saying is that like we're part of it. We need people to be vegan, but we're not the focus of it. And so I don't see a superiority piece in this. And yes, there is joy, and those of us who are vegan who are talking about it are still joyful and still sharing that joy.
Absolutely. Sorry, I think it's a Wi-Fi issue that's happening because as I've been following along in this article on my phone, I had the similar thing happen at one point. So I think we're having a weird Wi-Fi thing. So
Okay. All good.
yeah, but yeah, I agree. I heard most of what you said, and yeah, we're not coming off as we're superior and better than other people. We're again having open and honest conversation, sharing what's important to us, but also being respectful about it and meeting people where they are.
Yeah. Yep. And then the next one, you build bridges, not walls. I mean, that's the whole reason that Did You Bring the Hummus exists, that The Confident Vegan exists, that vegan morning show exists, because we are building bridges and we're showing people in all of these different ways how they can learn about veganism, how they can show up as vegans, how they can educate their friends and family. We are building bridges and we're showing people all of the different ways to be part of this. So I don't know what the point of this article was. Is it feels like it was simply to shame people who are vegan and who talk about it, which is absurd. So I don't know what they thought we were going to get out of this article, but I mean, we gave them way more publicity than they than they earned. So disappointed by all of this. What are your final thoughts on this, Jen?
So it says final bite. Being vegan isn't just about what's on your plate. It's also about how you show up in the world. Being vegan goes beyond what's on your plate because it's not just about the food.
Yeah.
They made it about
Well,
the food.
yep.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is about how you show up in the world, but it's about the other products you buy.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of holes in this article, as we've
Yeah.
spent some time already pointing out.
And then in one of the last paragraphs, it's if you've chosen a plant-based life and don't feel the need to convert every carnivore you meet, give yourself credit. You're probably practicing empathy, self-awareness, nuance, and kindness at a level many aspire to but never achieve. It
Where
really,
are we doing something wrong because we're the vegans that achieve all those things?
I mean, this article sure seems to think so. It really, I really, what was the point? Like vegans be quiet on a vegan website, a claiming to be vegan
Was
website.
this writer not vegan who works for this vegan website and they
Right.
did it from their perspective? Because it doesn't come across from someone who's a seasoned vegan doing it for all
No,
the right things.
right.
So,
So disappointing.
very much so. So
But gave us a great show.
well, yes, it gave us a great show. This was an amazing conversation, as
Yeah,
all of our conversations are. Sorry for my glitches. I don't know
all
what's going
good.
on with my Wi-Fi. But if you are watching the replay, please put in the chat what are your thoughts on
Mhm.
this article. We can include the link in our notes so you can read it and give us your perspective on it. And also, yeah, anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Yeah. I just disappointed to
Well,
find that article and to read it, but glad that we had a chat.
well, it gave us a great conversation for sure.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what's going on this week with Did You Bring the Hummus?
Oh, so Did You Bring the Hummus? Today's episode is features plant-based Susie. So I'm very excited for Plant-Based Susie to be on the Did You Bring the Hummus platform. You guys are gonna love her. She is amazing. We talk about Toastmasters too, so not just all the amazing vegan things she's doing, but we touch on our love, our shared love for Toastmasters. I was able to join one of her meetings. She's in the UK, so it happened during the day, or like earlier in my day, but I was able to join, and it was really a lot of fun. And I have a meditation tonight, so if anybody wants to meditate with me at 8 o'clock, you can visit my website and sign up. How about you? What's going on at the Confident Vegan?
Your meditations are amazing. I wish whenever you've had them, I haven't been able to go again, but I went one time, and when I do have time, I would go again. So I highly recommend people sign up for Kimberly's meditation. And Plant-Based Susie, she's been on the Confident Vegan when she was under Vegan Susie. And I did a cooking with a Confident Vegan with her, and we also did an interview. She's a lot of fun. I love her energy.
Yeah, me too.
So I've taken a break from my YouTube channel. I needed to get through this month of family stuff, which was all great stuff, but I needed to set aside a lot of my content, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. We're going to be doing a blog challenge together.
Oh, yeah.
So that is going to be a fun experience. So yeah, I'm going to be posting hopefully consistently every day for 31 days in July.
Yep.
So come check that out.
Yeah, awesome. I totally forgot to mention that. Yeah, it'll be a good time. Yeah.
For sure. I'm excited to see what you share.
Me too. I'm excited to see what you share.
Aw.
Oh, and JP's going to do it too.
Oh, how fun. Yay.
Yeah. So we'll have our own little group within the group.
Yeah. Oh, how fun. That'll be a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wow, we went long, but it was such a good show. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know your thoughts. And let me and Kimberly know if there's a topic you would like us to cover. We're always open for suggestions.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.